Hold on just a second. Once the live stream is running, I think we can get started because we are just about at time. And folks are filing in. Love it.
Live stream looks good.
Thanks, Sasha. All right, then I think we are ready to go. It sounds like you guys want to facilitate your own session, but do let me know if you need anything from me co-host wise.
Gotcha. Probably need the most help with recording like comments over. We have like a interactive section, so especially in the Slack channel, I don't think we're managing those. So if those could be elevated to like the Zoom chat or at least verbally raised, that'd be super helpful.
Absolutely. I think between me and Jessica Hayden, we will get that taken care of.
Cool.
Yeah.
Still see some folks coming in. Maybe we can wait till like 1 minute after one, if that's okay.
Oh, and Jessica is watching Slack. You're the best, Jessica.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica. Just given a couple extra moments there. I see the participant list kind of creeping up there, so want to like folks have time to transition over. Was there another call that went up until this call?
Yes, that's
Nice.
actually why I'm a little bit later than I the Link Data Help Hour was fantastic. There was
Oh,
lots of
great.
good discussion, and if anyone is interested in catching up on that, there is a Google Doc with notes in that section of the sketch. But yeah, there should be some people coming over and also presumably people coming back from lunch.
All right. Well, it is one past. I guess I'll just kick us off if that's okay with everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We have a star-studded, packed presentation. A lot of great, wonderful people on the call sharing some great projects. And part of this whole call is also to kind of get some additional feedback from you. So you, by default, are also part of this presentation. Today, we're looking to present building community and possibly a new LD4 affinity group around linked data for dance, theater, performing arts, time-based media, music, and events. I will introduce myself, and throughout the presentation, folks, when they're going to give their part of the presentation, will give a little brief introduction for themselves. My name is Jessica Davis. I am a researcher in the fields of linked open data and cultural heritage, knowledge organization, experiential data, and I've also done some research fellowship with Semantic Lab and also was just recently a project manager on the No Boundaries Archive project and dancing digital commons. But let's get into it, and then we'll go to get introduced to the rest of our great panel. So today's session, as the name, the long list indicates, we're kind of looking for some feedback and kind of understanding of the need for this particular subject area. We have some context. There has been some prior conversations that were had, mainly that happened in the LD4 Art and Design Affinity Group, which after the break will be coming up after us. And we wanted to share kind of a high level summary of kind of some of the takeaways from that conversation. And then also give a moment to also highlight some of the projects and work that's being done in the subject area when it comes to linked open data and like performing arts, temporal based, type of domains. So with that and kind of sharing the great work that some of these folks are doing, it kind of gives you an idea of the type of projects that are out there, but really kind of looking to understand some like a long way to support this type of work and creating like a community that can, help folks realize the best possible outcomes for their projects and get the help that they need, or interested folks can kind of get involved. So part of this is to try to understand through a interactive portion of our presentation to understand who might be interested in what capacity and how formal they kind of want this type of support to be. Also, another important element is the scope. What's the subject area or domains that are kind of where folks are most interested in, and really kind of like how that might function. And this is a bit of like a dreamscape activity. In addition to, we kind of want to connect with you all. Obviously, you're here, you kind of saw the subject area, and we're really interested in to see who else we can kind of fold into this community building. And I will pass it off to Emma to kind of give that context from the last call.
Thank you, Jessica. My name is Emma Clarkson, and I'm a metadata specialist at the New York Public Library, where I work specifically with the music, theater, and dance divisions at the Library for the Performing Arts. I'm going to give just some brief context on how this session came about, which was a pretty organic consequence of some recent conversations in different communities. I don't think I can pinpoint exactly where it started, because I, along with several people in this call who are sharing today, am always trying to talk to people about linked data and the performing arts. But two of our sort of accomplices today are the LD4 Art and Design Affinity Group, as Jessica mentioned, and the Music Library Association Linked Data Working Group, or LDWIG. I'm very lucky at NYPL to have some very cool coworkers, including Sammy, who's presenting today, and Carly Wildenhouse, both of whom are co-conveners of the LD4 Art and Design Affinity Group, as is Jessica. The scope of art and design is primarily visual art, architecture, exhibitions, and so on. But it has been the de facto home for a wide range of arts and performing arts related topics, including presentations like Dancing Digital, which we'll hear about from Rebecca Salzer in just a few minutes. And I'm also a member of LDWIG, which is chaired by Kevin Kishimoto, who's here today as well. LDWIG is a working group within the Music Library Association, so the participation and scope is more limited, and we've sometimes talked about ways to connect with a larger community of practice. Many music librarians are also responsible for theater and dance and more. And I would say, particularly when we're working on Wikidata projects, there is this constellation of questions that come up around modeling performing arts topics, which are complicated, as many of you know, and we could benefit from collaborating with people in adjacent areas. So I was talking about some of this with Carly a few months ago, and she had the idea that the Art and Design Affinity Group could host a call as one of their regular monthly meetings that would just be an open forum to try to gather some of these various parties and see what kind of overlap and interest there was. So we had this call in May. Some of our discussion questions for guiding that conversation included, does it make sense to establish a separate LD4 affinity group dedicated to performing arts? What institutions and projects are already producing linked data for performing arts? How might a new affinity group relate to existing groups and professional organizations? And what kind of topics, presenters, and projects would you be interested in seeing? The text on this slide is just a sample of where people were coming from in that call. We were really thrilled by the attendance and engagement in that conversation. And since we basically filled up the hour and still had energy, we solicited interest from attendees in putting together a proposal for this very session at which you currently find yourself. We hope to continue the conversation with a wider audience and move toward consensus on what next steps might be. So we're really glad that all of you are joining us today and very much look forward to hearing from you. But first, I'm going to hand it off to Susan to MC our lightning talks.
Thank you, Emma. So I don't know if there's any. Oh yes, okay. I'm just here to kick this off, and we have some really interesting talks, which are evidence that all of this work is happening and already in our community, and now is the time to decide how we want to come together to build a community to support it, I think. So not sure who's first, but is it you, Sammy?
It's me.
Well, please go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Sammy Conant. I'm the Dance, Audio, and Moving Image Cataloger at the New York Public Library. And much of my interest in this group stems from my decision to turn towards linked open data and Wikidata to enhance the discovery of a collection that I steward for the NYPL. And so, as you can see on my slide, I've been spending a lot of time modeling dance production records, choreographic works, and creating stub entries for underrepresented dancers, choreographers, and contributors in Wikidata. The collection I steward in particular is called the Dance Original Documentation, and it's a significant point of research for the Library of the Performing Arts, and is a really great example of a collection of archival material and data that references not only thousands of dance performances, but often world premieres, and are like the very first provenance point for the creation and presentation of dance. And so by adding entries into Wikidata, I've been able to create access points that are available to the public. As you can see on the right-hand side, I have a little visualization of the current productions that I've modeled in Wikidata. If we can go to the next slide. And additionally, I've been able to utilize Wikidata to create choreographic work entries for contemporary dance, many of which are created by choreographers that may or may not be a part of the NACO Choreographic Works project, which I contribute to, as well as my coworker, Emma. And so while I've been going through the process of contributing to that project, I've also been able to update entries in Wikidata alongside to provide immediate access while the NACO project is very much a work in progress. So I'm ready to pass it on to the next person.
Okay, that would be me. Hello, I am Anthony Sharp, and I work as a music metadata specialist at UCLA. And I am here to give a quick introduction to the Music Library Association's Linked Data Working Group, or LUDWIG. LUDWIG was originally formed in 2016 to support the linked data for performed music project. We are a group of about 20 who meet twice a month. In these meetings, we discuss, learn, and build practical skills and linked data related to music. We focus on topics such as BibFrame, the performed music ontology, linked data editors like Sinopia and Marva, and everyone's favorite Wikidata. We also work on projects like the thematic concordance projects. In these projects, we created and enhanced Wikidata items for Frédéric Chopin's and Antonio Vivaldi's musical works, with a specific focus on adding thematic catalog numbers from irrelevant thematic catalogs, each of which uses a separate numbering scheme. For more information on these projects, I have hyperlinked the project pages here. In mid-April of 2024, we held a virtual Wikidata working week for MLA members. During this event, we gave participants an introduction to Wikidata and a crash course on creating and editing data within it. We gave them 3 musical-related projects to work on, and during this week, they made about 3,500 total edits. So pretty successful. It was fun. As stated before, we are a group that mostly comprises of music catalogers, and thus we have a good understanding of music, but wish to expand our knowledge about adjacent arts, and we feel that this new LD4 Affinity Group would be the perfect platform for that. And yep, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, I'm up next. My name is Rebecca Salzer. I'm a choreographer and a dance filmmaker, and I teach at the University of Alabama. 8 years ago, I started the Dancing Digital Project to explore how to facilitate more accessible, equitable, sustainable, and interconnected online dance resources. And in early 2020, Dancing Digital began a collaboration with Giselle Mason to build a digital archive for her performance project, No Boundaries, Dancing the Visions of Contemporary Black Choreographers. And we have a link to the prototype archive there. It's probably gonna migrate to that permanent link, but you can check that out. With this wonderful collection of Giselle's work and the work of the 10 other choreographers, used as a test case. Together, we developed digital tools and features and vocabulary while also centering the voices of women and BIPOC dance artists. And it was important for us as we built this to find ways to make the No Boundaries archive more interconnected and discoverable. And this led us, of course, to explore linked open data. Developers at Collective Access worked with us to create a demo interface that integrates with the No Boundaries archive, that integrates data from the No Boundaries archive with data about the No Boundaries artists from the Brooklyn Academy of Music archives and Jacob's Pillow Dance Festival archives. And you can see there's a link to that Wikidata integration model below. That was just a preliminary look for us. It was a really valuable experiment for us to create this, and it also surfaced some challenges. One was just a really stark illustration of the need for better representation of dance artists in general in Wikidata, but especially women and BIPOC dance artists. And the second was the inadequacy of existing Wikidata properties to reflect current and inclusive dance practices. So we've been lucky to have the opportunity to research these ideas with Jessica Davis, our intrepid introducer and convener here, who, by the way, we first connected with at an LD4 Art and Design Affinity Group meeting. And we're eager to help further some consensus or alignment about how dance data is structured. And even being part of putting this session together has really been informative for us. So we're eager for more performing arts focused conversations within LD4. Thank you.
Hi, I guess I'm next. My name is Kevin Kishimoto, and I'm a music metadata librarian at Stanford University, and I'm a current chair of the Music Library Association Linked Data Working Group. And today I'd like to introduce a project idea to create Wikidata for piano rolls. So first, what is a piano roll? The piano roll is a commercial music recording format that originated in the late 19th century. The media is basically a continuous roll of paper, which is punched with holes to represent musical data. That is, musical notes, rhythms, etc. And here on the right is a cropped image of a piano roll. It goes on for much longer. These are played back on a player piano. The roll of paper is mounted onto a spool inside the instrument, and mechanisms move the piano keys to perform the music. In the first quarter of the 20th century, piano rolls were very popular mass-produced entertainment media. And the Stanford Archive of Recorded Sound holds over 20,000 piano rolls in its collection. Today, there exists an active piano roll community which is interested in researching and preserving this antique media format. In addition to libraries and museums, there are a number of serious private collectors and scholars. But unfortunately, there's no agreed upon descriptive metadata standard for piano rolls. Next slide, please.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I clicked on the link.
Clicked on the link. Okay. There you go.
Wait, did it get smaller?
It's not, yeah. Well, I'll keep going anyway. The next slide is just the
There it is.
image.
Sorry, Kevin.
So due to the nature of their musical contents as well as their convoluted publication history, creating metadata is not easy. Not only do we need to describe the music and the performance event, but piano roll metadata also requires specialized understanding of the different roll formats from different publishers. In their heyday, there were many publishers of piano rolls, as well as many different types of player pianos. And because they were in business competition with one another, different manufacturers designed instruments with special features, and piano rolls were often not compatible from one instrument to another. Proper identification of roll types and playback devices is essential. So given that much of this specialized knowledge regarding piano rolls resides with researchers and private collectors rather than generalist librarians like myself, I'd like to develop a streamlined yet adaptable Wikidata model and a data creation workflow that can be shared with the piano roll community. And my vision is to establish structured data about piano rolls in Wikidata but collaboration among the researchers and the collections and LD4 community at large will be necessary for success. And thank you. I believe Emma's next.
Oh no, I did it again. Sorry, everybody. Okay. Hello, I am back with my lightning talk hat on. So I create and enhance a lot of Wikidata items as part of my local authority control workflows. And for corporate bodies like theater companies, something that I noticed on Wikidata was that a theater company was frequently conflated or confused with a theater building. So I took Will Kent's Wikidata Salon class last fall and decided to work on this as my project, with a scope being off-Broadway theater in New York City. I put together this spreadsheet from a couple of different sources and there wasn't like one authoritative list. And then I did an open refine reconciliation and then basically worked through it manually, just assessing what existed in Wikidata and the easiest way to clean it up. For my data model, I relied on Wikiproject Performing Arts and Wikiproject Cultural Venues. Once I had the building and organization split cleanly, the really satisfying part for me was using the cultural venues data model to distinguish between the theater building and the performance hall, which is the name of the Wikidata item for the actual auditorium theater space where a performance takes place. A lot of these theaters have multiple theaters, so I could create separate linked items for each of them. I used the move claim gadget a bunch so that you could see in the edit history that I wasn't just deleting all of these statements. And when the cleanup was particularly gnarly, I actually left an explanation on the talk page. And one of these had a delightful overlap with my place of employment because the theater building that houses the Public Theater in New York is the former Astor Library building, which became part of the New York Public Library. My coworker Carly had done a whole project to clean up Wikidata items for the NYPL branch libraries. So I consulted with her about how best to represent that building and its multiple uses over time. And I created items for all of its constituent performance halls. And as you can see on the right, it is so linky. And to relate this to our topic of conversation today, I was thinking of this project as basically groundwork for some future projects modeling performances or productions that would be produced by these theater companies and performed in these venues. That is it for me. Who's next?
Hi, I think I'm next. Hi, so I'm Christine Friendship-Naraslao, Metadata Technologies Program Manager at Harvard Library Information and Technical Services. I've been lucky to collaborate on performing arts and linked data projects, which have largely been about using Wikidata to describe entities related to collections of recordings. Currently, I'm going to describe a couple of these, including unique film prints and video recordings of public events. Our first attempts to describe Harvard Film Archive materials with linked data involved ISNI entities back in the day for film directors and extending bib frame, attempting to extend bib frame as part of the LD4L, LD4P grants. But the beginnings of the workflow that we ultimately operationalized was developed during the PCC Wikidata pilot in 2020. I'd like to give a shout out to Susan, who was instrumental in helping us bring this to its current steady state, which is now in its 5th year somehow. Technical services staff convert data from an internal film archive database into bare bones MARC records, which catalogers enhance with Wikidata URIs for filmmakers. We're up to about 1,500 filmmaker items with the has works in the collection statement about HFA. For the Jenny Olson Queer Film Collection, you're seeing a poster for one of these on screen right now. We expanded this practice to include Homosaurus URIs for release for genres and subjects. Some challenges for this work include discrepancies in release dates and running times, the latter reflecting the entanglement of the film as a work with the film print as an object that changes over time as the print itself changes through performance, and item deletions due to alleged lack of notability. Next slide, please. Similarly, an evolving short-term project, also involving Susan, involves over 500 public events at the Harvard Graduate School of Design, recorded on VHS tapes and DVDs, in which architects, designers, and other professionals present their work or engage in dialogue. For these, we are creating and editing items for the events themselves in Wikidata, in participants in the events and event series. So far, the challenges have been in modeling event series as well as participant roles. Some of the most interesting connections that are possible here are links between lectures and the creative works that are frequently their focus, such as buildings or books or landscapes or other designed objects, which aren't easy to automate and may require more resources. But exploring these possibilities will put us in a better position to potentially apply this work prospectively to new born digital recordings. And that's the end of my thing. Thanks.
All right, thanks so much, Christine, and everyone else that presented. They're very fascinating, and it looks like judging from the comments, really also exciting for our folks attending the call. So thank you again. So now we're kind of going to change over to the portion of our presentation where it's interactive. Yay, we love interacting. So this is what we're calling the brainstorm activity portion of the call. If you go to the next slide, please. Just to give you a little like heads up, kind of talking about it at the top of the call, where we really want to understand like you now. We've kind of shared some projects and kind of some of the challenges that we're facing and maybe some of the needs that we think could be met if we kind of gathered and built this community, and kind of to support each other to move forward with our projects and maybe even foster new projects. But really kind of what we're hoping to do from this session is to gather like what your needs are and type of a community that you would need to build around the projects that you are working on or want to work on, in this kind of vast scope of, as we've listed out, with many different types of performance arts, dance, theater, time-based media, film, etc. So we're going to use Miro board, which is, I'm sure in this stage of post-COVID, everyone has their share of like brainstorm boards that they've kind of worked with. Hopefully it will be easy, but we're also welcoming feedback in the chat or Slack, and we have some folks that are going to support us there. And also we'll invite some folks to come off mute if you want to kind of also weigh in that way. Coming back to Miro board, it works best if you're on a laptop or like desktop device. And if we go to the next page, kind of talking through a little bit more about like the format of this brainstorm activity. So it's set up where we'll ask you some yes or no types of questions, and then there'll be some connected questions that are more like 1 or 2 sentence type of responses. There's going to be like spots on the board where you can submit your answers, so it's hopefully not super chaotic, but maybe marginally, but we love a fun chaotic moment. And also we're here to support you. There's the link for it, and thank you, Jessica, just dropped it in the Zoom chat. Again, if you don't want to go on there, feel free to weigh in the comments, the chat, and also Slack, and some folks on the call here, part of the presentation team, will try to port it over into the board. One more slide just to kind of give some more. I see a bunch of people already in there. So again, there's kind of a couple different the sections that we'll go through. Each are color coded. There'll be, again, you see the yes or no questions. For the yes or no questions, there's this little dot palette where you can, when you hover over with your cursor, it turns into a hand, the arrow turns into hand, and you can pull down a dot into the corresponding box that matches how you want to answer that question. The other option is the sticky notes, which pick a sticky note, start typing your answer. There's like a sticky note kind of like a collection pool over on the right hand side where you can kind of grab some more or hit one and copy paste. I can see there's a lot of activity on that first one right now, so it's okay. Things get a little crazy. We'll fix it. The other thing to call out is Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much it, right? There's just like a dot voting portion and then like a long form answer. And so we'll kind of take a pause, we'll ask the question and kind of work through each of the colored sections. And so don't need to like go race ahead, but feel free to do that if you want to do that. But yeah, let's get going. No, the dot colors do not have significance. It was kind of like a templated palette, so whatever color gives you happiness, please use that color, but they do not have significance. Cool. All right, I'm going to share my screen in 1 second here. I'm going to get myself situated. All right.
Can
I'm
I
also going
say
to just
something real
yes,
quick?
yes, please.
Just as a occasional Miro user, it took me a long time to figure out that you use the right click button to scroll around the screen on your mouse. Otherwise, you start moving things around on the screen. So just so you all know, right
Yeah.
click is to move your view.
Yes, thanks, Kevin. Appreciate that. Let me share my screen. And another cool trick that I learned too, which is magical. The other thing is if you hold down, if you hold down the space bar and then you click, you can kind of move the board too, which is also very helpful. All right, so I know I'm kind of seeing everyone. Maybe I can do the thing where I like hide folks. Okay. I just kind of made it a little less busy that way. So the first question that we have, I see some folks already voting, so that's fantastic. The first question is up here in the top corner. We have, do you support or steward a performing arts-based collection? And again, I'll kind of demonstrate. I'm hovering over, I'm kind of deciding which color I want. I'm going to move my dot over to yes, and I'm just going to release it. And that's all I need to do to vote. Hopefully that's clear. Is everyone able to is anyone like not able to access the board or is having trouble? If you want to like either go off mute and say help, or if you want to also sound off in the chat, please do. Chris, yes, thank you, Christine, for that too. Oh, Sarah, thank you. Yeah, seeing all the Christians everywhere is adorable. It's kind of like you kind of like took out all your animals out for like a walk in the park and like everyone's like, ah, like so it's excited. All right. I'm gonna also put my timer on here, so we're gonna stay gonna be kind of regimented there. All right, so the next question, I'm gonna move over here. We have, what are the collections that you support? So we kind of ask if, yeah, no problem, Joseph. Anything you want to do if some of the folks, oh. And then we have stuff like that, which is always good. There we go. So some of the questions are, what are the collections that you support? I'm just gonna move that forward here. Oh, I think we're all trying to do the same thing, so that's okay. I'm gonna try something while we're filling that out. Maybe it might help it a little bit. See if that helps. Okay. All right. Yeah. So if folks are able to answer, they can grab, if you just click directly on a particular sticky note and then grab that, and you can double click and start typing. That's fab. I'll just give it a couple more seconds there. All right. And feel free to kind of answer. This board will be open for a little while, so feel free to answer later if you want to come back to it. So the next question is, do you do research in the domains discussed in this presentation? So at the beginning of the call, we talked about dance, theater, performing arts, music, film. Just do you currently do research at all or present working on anything in that domain? and either in any capacity. So if you're doing independently, or maybe you're doing it as part of your institution or where you work. And once you kind of answered that, the next kind of question that's like a follow-up for that is, what is your subject area or research topic area? All those extra sticky notes are up here. I can move some down if that's easier for some folks. I'm gonna put some more down here if it's need to have access to them. Right. So we kind of just answered a bunch of questions about kind of getting to know you better. Let's move on to the next section. So here we have questions about linked data and linked open data and data usage and understanding. Question, I experimented. Is anyone able to pull or edit anything on this side of the board, just as we're working through? I think so. I just wanted to just make sure. I kind of locked it so that didn't move around, so hoping that might help some of that. But back to the questions that regarding kind of if familiarity with linked data usage. Do you currently use linked data in your workflows? Oh, thanks, Dominique. Appreciate your coming. Are folks able to edit the why or why not? Just make sure you can have access to that. Looks like they are. Okay. And kind of thinking through similar the idea of using like data in your workflows. And this is kind of more generally too. So if that helps your answering here, a lot of these types of question in this green section here, just to try to understand like a general familiarity with linked open data and linked data. I guess the other question that is here is, what is something about linked data that you wish you knew more about? I'll put some more. You folks need some more cards. Feel free to pull them over. Great. Right, and I'll keep us moving here. The other question is in this blue section where we're trying to kind of understand a little bit more about your current challenges, which I know some of the lightning talkers like mentioned some of the challenges that they're facing in their work, but this kind of helps us understand maybe the potential need that this community could help solve for. So the first question again is a yes or no question. Are you facing challenges with your research or project in this domain? And if you are, can you share some types of challenges that you're facing? And feel free to grab more than one sticky note if you want to do one sticky note per challenge. That's totally fine too. I know, I feel like there's these like more time to consider as far as the different challenges, because I know there could be like many and there could be many and faceted. So All right. And as folks kind of finish up with that section there, thinking about, do you currently have a space where you can talk about your these challenges that you're facing? Are you able to get support for the work or research that you're working on right now? And if you do, it's kind of like a two-part question. So, if you do have a space, can you like share a little bit more about what that looks like and maybe what you really like about it and how it really supports you? And feel free to elaborate as much as you'd like. The other kind of side of the fence there is if you don't have that space or place, what would that look like, or what would that ideally look like for you? And I'll kind of pull some post-it notes down. They help too much. Yeah, I mean, like the sky's the limit if you're kind of thinking about it in like an idealistic way. Kind of curious to see, and maybe if even if you do have something, obviously we want to know what is working, but maybe there's something that you can share if you do have the space, but it just doesn't quite scratch the itch or give you what you need. Like it'd be great to kind of hear what your kind of like ideal version of that space. And just to elevate to the presentation team, if just to make sure folks are pulling over some of the, I see some like comments in the Zoom chat. I just want to make sure those are getting pulled over too. Oh, awesome. Thanks, Jessica. Yeah, so I see something from our, will be great if I can have someone pull that over into the board. All right, we have 2 more sections, so we're doing pretty good with time. The next question here are kind of about a little bit about community logistics. What format would you want to convene in? Again, this is always something you kind of have like a default virtual kind of approach, I think, to a lot of ways that we're, gathering together. But just curious to know if that is still the case. So again, if you want to pull a dot down to the block of your preference. And the other kind of follow-up question to that is how often in this kind of like dream state of community building that we're in, how often would you want to meet, or how often would you need to meet? We have like weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, however dimension of time you want to suggest. That'd be great. Thanks, Mary. Appreciate that. I just want to make sure everyone is heard, so thanks for confirming that. Uh-oh. I gotta move her here when we move it down. Learn my lesson. We gotta use the locking device, but this is all a journey of learning as we move forward. Great. The next question is what areas would you want to be included in the scope of this community convening? Select all that apply. Because as we know, there are many, many different interesting things and challenges for each of these different domains here. And would you consider other areas that are not listed here as potentially in scope? Yes, Frederic. Yes. I think that was posted in the channel Capicoa. Maybe you mentioned that if I'm not conflating them with some other suggestion. But yeah, good call. I'll appreciate the cross posting though. It's always needed. Oh yeah, because you're from there, so that makes sense though. Just made that connection now. Sorry about that. All right, let's move on to the last kind of two parts here in the orange section. Yeah, no really cross posting. What type of agenda items would be best to support you and your workflows? Is kind of thinking of how the actual times that we would convene, like what's the agenda look like? You want show and tell? Is it casual discussions, just moving that over so we can read it here? Or co-working time, maybe you just need like time sectioned off where you can just like work and ask questions as they come up. And then the other is like technical how to do's, like workshops where you're kind of getting more into the like, give me the process steps on how to make my dream happen. Please show me how to do this. And then the follow-up question to that is what other agenda items might be helpful for you? Is there any other types of maybe calls or other meetings that you've been to where you're like, oh my gosh, this format is so helpful to what I need to do. I think that's also nice. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, I appreciate that. I feel like it's a balance because it's in some ways like one thing that probably won't solve everybody's problem. So I tend to agree with you there, Joseph. All right, see how we're doing the time here. Okay, well, we got a little 5 more minutes or so. Let's move on to the last section. And I think really what we're trying to ask here, given we're here under like the umbrella of LD4 in this conference, I think affinity groups have done like a really great job to kind of like gather folks and kind of have like a more focused way to kind of talk through and show work that's being done and raise challenges. And it's helpful because it's kind of geared towards a certain domain or a certain subject area or certain application. And so the question really is like, is LD4 the right place to establish this community? And like kind of thinking through that probably will look like an affinity group. So it's pretty, I think that's what we're kind of proposing, but like also just wanted to align that like that does align with what everyone else is thinking. And again, like if maybe we're missing something, maybe there's some other kind of community out there or something, another opportunity where we can kind of like, you know, like birds of a feather flock together some other place. What is that? You know, just to be able to share because I know everyone's has certain connections and links and there might be other opportunities that we just don't know about. It doesn't look like that is quite the case, but maybe if that is some information intel is listed there, if we do decide to move towards a direction of like LD4 space, maybe it could be an opportunity to go there and see if they want to come over here. So the next question is kind of like a little bit more specific and like having some assumptions that we're, you know, maybe going to move forward with the idea of it being under the LD4 umbrella. But we, you know, coming out of that last call, kind of talked through some different options. An offer from the Art and Design Affinity Group really was perhaps like sharing their infrastructure would be a good way to start off, where there could be like alternating months where Art and Design Affinity Group has the agenda and different, calls out to different folks working on projects to come to present. And then maybe like quarterly or every other month, the performing arts slash all the things of the domains in this project, this presentation would come and we would alternate, kind of take facilitation ownership of the call, switching back and forth. Or is it something where we want to have a dedicated affinity group, like where we feel that there's a lot of things to work through and discuss, and maybe having it focused will give a better support system for folks? And kind of like thinking through maybe some of the logic that you've, applied to kind of think through the shared or dedicated. Is there like advantages to having something shared? Is there advantages to having something dedicated? And is also other disadvantages in both those contexts? So just something to kind of like think through, if folks could raise what they think there. And I'll just grab some more. Oops.
And this might be a little bit putting the cart before the horse, but regardless of whether you think they should be together or separate, I think naming is going to be a question, potentially like not even the easiest one. So if anybody has strong opinions or thoughts, I think that would be very welcome.
Good call, enough. Yeah. We couldn't decide, so we just put a bunch of slash, name slash, name slash, name slash, which isn't really good for like sharing about and like being concise with like what we're trying to do. But we could just like make it an acronym, but that's always frustrating sometimes. Great. And the last kind of two-parter question that's also very important is like, would you want to be involved with this community and whatever we kind of like decide to move forward with collectively? Is that something that you're like, yes, this is helpful and sign me up, or I want to know more, or I want to show more, etc. And then it wouldn't be a community if we didn't have various roles to support and kind of facilitate this effort. So we're really interested in understanding kind of how you would want to, participate in this community. Do you want to just attend like passively? You're just here for the vibes, which totally respect. Do you want to present works or projects? Maybe you want to be on the other side of the fence and plan and organize, setting up like Zoom links, like setting up reminders, like kind of like more the admin side of things. And then also like the like talking box if it's virtual, like just start conversations, facilitate conversations on the call, kind of lead in that capacity. Or maybe there's another type of role that we didn't list here that you're like, I want to do that.
And to Jessica's point about involvement, shortly we'll share a URL that links to a Google form for follow-up contact information. Some of the questions you've answered on the Miro board will be there as well, but there's also opportunity to more specifically notate how you'd like to be involved. And additionally, this will be the way that we follow up with you to share the results of the Miro board, and then also it's how we'll stay in touch once we figure out the best way to step forward as a community. And so I will put that into the chat now. It is also shared at the very end of the slides too, in case you come to this presentation after this recording.
Yeah, and I appreciate I just see Lillian's answer as like attend first and possibly facilitate. Like, yeah, totally. Like I think like it's so hard to kind of foresee like how you might want to go, like how you might want to be involved, because as like we go through different seasons of our lives, like different priorities, ebb and flow. And so I think the question here is not for like finding this particular role, filling the role, and now you're like forever needing to do this role. I think there's a influx kind of understanding with why we're asking these questions. And just as if the appetite is out there to have like facilitators and or like planners and things like that. Cool. Great. Is there any questions that I missed, team, as far as like what we wanted to like what we were curious about? I know the form might have some more kind of like specifics like Sammy mentioned, but yeah, was there any other? We said name, which is like a good call.
I think everything was caught by Mary. Thank you, Mary, for catching all of the additional comments and adding them to the board.
Yay, thank you. I know. It's great. Well, if there's it looks like the activity is dwindling. We can kind of maybe jump back into the slides, I think, unless we want to give folks a couple more moments. What do y'all think?
Well, I was wondering, so we have a decent amount of time left. I wondered if we could just sort of like look around the Miro board and see if
Yeah.
anybody wants to draw attention to things,
Cool.
or explain a little bit more what you said or share. I know that it's hard to unmute and be the first one. But I wonder if they're would be interested in sort of jumping off what's here in writing, just to get a conversation going. I guess I like just to flag some sort of logistical answers that people have put out. It does look like there's a little bit more, definitely more support for being in combination with art and design, than trying to start a separate group, which I think is exciting. And some ideas on the sticky notes about cadence, alternating. So thank you everybody for putting thoughts there.
Yeah, it was actually surprising because, it's such a broad, at least how we're kind of framing it right now, like the scope is pretty wide. And so, you kind of make assumptions to be like, well, we need like a dedicated group to kind of even like do it justice. But I also think the shared infrastructure speaks to the infrastructure. I like giving shout out to Carly for kind of establishing that structure. I think without that, it's a very easy to attend, easy to facilitate type of call. And it just kind of really represents, having good structure is like, it's like great because it's kind of repeatable in a lot of ways. But there's the subject area I think that we're looking to touch upon, I think is kind of connected to the art and design world. So having it kind of be, in concert with that jokes will be interesting. And we also talked, sorry to keep like chatting, but like, the temporal aspect of it where maybe it starts off as shared and maybe we kind of like get enough momentum where there's like folks like as like a reflecting on this past year of shared, infrastructure. And yeah, like there is appetite to have our own dedicated group. I think there's not really like a need to push in one direction, like immediately it has to be this thing. I think it kind of have some space to kind of grow a little bit organically there too. Oh, Carly's here. Hey, Carly. Yes, that's a good call too. Yes, yes. And also shout out to the the Wikidata affinity groups too. Which, Susan, I think you're a part of that too, right? You facilitate that? Any other kind of things to call out? Just trying to like not give people seasickness by scrolling quickly through the Miro board. does anyone want to share any other projects that they're working on? Like, I know that's always interesting for me. Anything that we should be checking out? I know Frederique was mentioning a lot of information that was helpful. I'm just kind of looking through first the like collections that folks support. Yeah, Mara.
Hi, thanks. I am a cataloger who is attached to the Black Bibliography Project, and the collections I support are not inherently like all about performance, but in a lot of the material we work with, there's performative aspect, like there's it's a printed form of orature or oration, or they're, poems that are meant to be read out loud. And so we know that there are performances that are attached to the printed material, that are like ontologically connected. And so we've been sort of trying to play around with modeling the connection between the performance and the printed material. And that has been, it felt kind of like, I feel like we're doing solid work on it, but it is very much sort of wandering around in the dark sort of feeling. So yeah, that's what most of my answers have been based on.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Yeah, that's a good point. Joseph mentioned about social action performance and then street protest. Yeah, like how that could kind of, there's some like parallels there. Yeah, thinking it through as like one of the event kind of facets that we were talking through.
Frederick has his hand up.
Yes, please go ahead.
I think there's absolute value in having a community that is not too narrowly focused. Because sometimes when you're working on a very, very narrow topic, you can find a great modeling solution, but that will not be interoperable with anything else that is done elsewhere in the broader cultural sector. And on the opposite, you can sometimes just be listening to a conversation about what's going on in the visual arts, and then you think, oh gosh, that would be a great approach to that one challenge that I have. So that's my contribution to this discussion. I would look favorably at a community of practice that is not too narrowly focused.
That's a good point. Yeah, just having that like opportunity to see like this little chunk of your workflow can like make so much sense for this particular problem that I'm facing in mind, even though like they're different domains. Like there's kind of that similarity, like Venn diagramming that seems to happen sometimes. Totally. Yeah, I love that.
I'll just draw attention also to Frederique's comment in the chat about other communities of practice that already exist, some of which I'm familiar with, but not all of them, which sort of stands in for a related complication, I think, in our trying to explore this as a potential like new or rescoped forum, is that there are a lot of people working in this area, and there are already a lot of efforts to coordinate and communicate between those groups. And so hopefully the idea of like adding one isn't a bad one. But it is, I think that the communication, the like distributed effort and communication is really tricky. I mean, I had an experience of this recently because I've been working on modeling choreographic works in Wikidata, and I was really trying to find everyone who was talking about this and working on it. And I just like completely didn't know that the Wikidata property that I was looking for existed. Like I somehow did not find it. Like there are the talk pages, there are the discussion pages, there are the project pages, and like a good faith effort to connect with the people who are doing the work that you're interested in sometimes still sort of falls short. So I hope that it does feel like a boon to sort of to create another space to be sharing information. And I'll just say for me personally, one of my goals, I think I do have the interest in bandwidth and having a facilitator role in this in the future. And I feel really excited about it right now. But and I think one of my commitments would be that some of that bandwidth is going to finding what other people are doing and trying to surface that and trying to sort of create reciprocal communication between these other communities of practice. Which, and I'm not at all saying that that's not happening right now. Like, for example, Odessa shared those schema.org proposals in the LD4 Slack space, which is very cool and very timely. And there's some affiliated papers and data modeling around leading up to those proposals, which I've been super interested to follow. Yeah, I'll stop talking.
Thank you for sharing all that. Well, I guess, I don't know, what do we think? Should we move to the slides and kind of talk through like what next steps might be? I know we're a little bit ahead of schedule. We can just sit and chat if folks like this. I know sometimes it's like that awkward, like silent kind of feeling, but
I was just going to add in the chat that Raphael commented that he'd also like if there were help sessions on projects we're working on. And I just wanted to add to that the way I became involved with LD4 is I went to the Art and Design Affinity Group to present a model I had been struggling with for traveling exhibitions. Which was a really helpful thing for me to do, to realize that there was a community here of people who also were approaching the problem from many different perspectives. And so I'm really happy to advocate this additional community as a space for that. The model I had developed was a failed model that did not work very well, but I think that also shouldn't be something that discourages you from putting yourself out there and opening the conversation. And that Frederick also commented that he's also in favor of distributed strategies, and there's nothing wrong with having multiple more or less similar communities of practice, and that hopefully we all connect and somewhat circulate across communities, which I think is a really lovely point to make.
I'm thinking about the workshops that Will Kent ran because like other folks mentioned them, I've participated in them, and there's only so much Will Kent to go around. But I think some of those the features of that environment could be reproduced in some way, and because not everybody gets the opportunity to do that, and I think having an incubating space like that, I think is something that we could probably reproduce a little bit.
And if you haven't taken the opportunity yet to fill out the follow-up Google form, I dropped it in the chat one more time. In case you want to add contact information or have any additional questions or comments that we weren't able to cover today.
So I guess kind of circulating here towards the end of our presentation, what's next? So we have this great communal board that we just shared some really great ideas and dreams and thoughts and needs. And I think it was really wonderful that we could share that space today to do that with you all, and thankful for your time and generous time to share those ideas and thoughts and dreams. And so what we'll do for next steps is kind of take and consolidate some of this information. We're going to add it to our deck. We did upload a version of our deck to the call so folks could have it before the call today. But we'll probably do another version and update it with some of the data and kind of call out for some of the different kind of similar thoughts that folks are having to kind of see how we kind of proceed. And then also, as Sammy mentioned, we have a form that she so kindly linked in the chat. We also have a little QR code if you're on your phone and that's easier for you to do it that way. But yeah, part of that is to stay connected with you and let you know of what next steps and next decisions and kind of next ideas we have to move forward to kind of get this community together. And there's no obligation for you, even if you interacted today and you're like, that was a fun activity. I don't have time for that. That's okay too. You gotta do what you do for your time. That's precious. So, but we hope maybe in the future, if you're kind of keeping tabs and eyes on what we're doing as we kind of communicate some of that information out to you. Yeah, we hope that someday we can kind of convene again and see what cool projects you're doing. I'll let if any of my co-presenters have anything to share, final thoughts, I'd welcome you to share it now.
I'll just say thank you to Jessica for sort of taking the lead and introducing and wrapping us up today and doing the major logistical lift of preparing the beautiful Miro board. Yeah, really, really wonderful to have all of you with us today, and I'm looking forward to returning to it and zooming in a little bit and scrolling slowly across all of the beautiful thoughts and ideas that folks have shared with us today. And more soon.